recording. Hello and welcome. This is Kathy Sipple, and this is the 5th week in a row that I am offering these free webinars just covering a variety of topics, all having to do with your online marketing and just how we're presenting ourselves online, attracting the right audiences that we want to attract. And for this week, we've titled it, How is your social media working for you? Now, social media, some people may not really see website as part of social media, but as we've discussed in some past workshops, I think that your social media should really be the hub of what we do. Okay, this is the real estate that you control, and it's a great place where all of your review sites, social networks, everything else that you do can point to your blog and or website, and also can be connected to one another. So we've got here Charlotte Wolf from Prairie Winds Nature Farm in Lakeville, Indiana. Charlotte's been a good supporter these past few weeks, and she was actually the very first member of CoThrive, so we really appreciate her financial support as well as her showing up. And we've got her webmaster, Zach Stewart, and I think this is just great. Zach is outside of South Bend, Indiana, not awfully far from Charlotte. And Zach, do you mind me sharing your age? I just think it's really very cool.
Sure.
Okay, Zach is 16 years old, and he is. How long have you been doing websites? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with this project?
Well, I created my first website a couple of years ago for my grandfather for his small business. I can't remember how many years ago. So that was when I first got started off doing it. Then it was last year that my Scoutmaster for my Boy Scout troop approached me about this project for my Eagle Scout project. And so I decided to talk to Charlotte and get going.
Good. Well, that's great. So, I think some people feel, oh, this is, for, you have to be a trained professional to do websites. And now I know a lot of other people will say, hey, if you're younger, you have an advantage. But you were pretty darn young when you created this. So your grandfather's a beekeeper, is that right? Or he helps people?
That's correct.
Okay. Very cool. So it's mikesapiaries.com, and this is the very first site that you did.
Correct.
Very cool. Well, great. Wonderful. So I just kind of want to, the key thing that we try to do throughout these webinars is just really encourage people and instill in them a can-do attitude. For those who don't wish to do, then it's great to be able to hook up with somebody who does want to take up that charge, and certainly I wish you all the best if this is a career that you're going to pursue. But let's just talk through this new site. Zach actually just made this publicly viewable for us today, and it is prairiewindsnaturefarm.wordpress.com if you want to kind of play along. This may be taken down after today. Do you still have some further work to do on it, Zach?
That's something I'll have to discuss with Charlotte.
Okay.
We'll probably take it back to private until we're completely done with it and ready to release it for good.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. And again, this is not a gotcha kind of situation. This is just, really reviewing what I know, what I've kind of learned over the course of my years in marketing, and sharing with you. And I think developing a website, it truly is more art than science. But, hope between Zach and myself, you're going to take away some tools that will help you either build a site that's going to do better work for you and give you more of what you're looking for it to do, or, just make some changes to your site. Okay, so as we've done in past weeks, I want to just remind people I'm using Pinterest as kind of a handy scratch pad, normally for my very well thought out scripted webinars. I do a slide deck with PowerPoints and that kind of thing. These are more like think tanks. We're kind of doing these things on the fly. So I like Pinterest boards as an easy way that we can quickly capture information and share it. So if you'd like to follow along there, I'm on Pinterest at pinterest.com/Kathy Sipple, just all one word, KATHYSIPPLE, and I've titled this board for this week, Improving Your Online Presence. So again, just kind of key concept that I want to start out with is how do you figure, your blog fits into the middle of it? Because obviously for anybody even to be having this experience that we're going to go into next, you need to be able to find the website, right? So this is a brand new site. It's probably not what's called indexed on, on Google yet, but what I mean by indexed is if you go to a search engine, for me, that's usually Google. I know there are others, obviously. You don't have to use Google. But if you optimize for Google, you're probably going to do a pretty good job with the other ones. So once the site is indexed by Google, what I could do is just to type in Prairie Winds Nature Farm, and this is great. I can see that they're already connected, with Google Maps. If I was the business owner, I could click here and I could enhance this listing even a bit more. So that's wonderful. But Charlotte is showing up. She's been doing all kinds of things online. She's been doing things on Pinterest. She's been doing cross-post with Edible Michiana. So this is great. She's showing up in a number of different ways. That's cool. So that's kind of what happens before, obviously, you ever even get to the website. You got to be able to find it. And we're going to be talking in the next few days how you can optimize your social media sites to make sure that people can find your website easily. Okay, so let's assume that we've done all that part right, which is a big if, but we'll get more into that later. And we now come to the site. There are a couple things that I kind of look for, and Zach, you just jump in if you see something too. For me, I like a clear idea that I'm easily identifiable up in the header area. In the header area, I would consider, kind of above this this key horizontal image, Prairie Winds Farm, Educational Nature Farm. It's got the name, obviously, and it suggests it is an educational nature farm. So, to me, that gives me a pretty clear idea of what's going on. Zach, do you want to say anything more about that? I see that you've got this part hyperlinked, kind of, the first three words.
Yeah, I think that's just something that WordPress automatically did for me. That way, if you're on any page of the website and you just click on the name, it takes you right back to the home page. But yeah, for the first three big letters, just the basic name of the farm, Prairie Winds Farm, and then a little more detail so you know that it's an educational nature farm. Okay,
good. The one thing I would say is I generally, I'm not saying this is always the way it has to be, but I generally would like to see home, if you're going to have a home page, maybe make that all the way over here at left, since that is kind of your anchor to keep, recentering on home. I don't know if that's everybody else's experience, but to me that feels, kind of right. So you guys can weigh in too with comments if you've got questions for either myself or Zach, or if you feel differently from what I'm saying. Again, I know it's more art than science, so this is just my feedback, my opinion. And so, I think that's great. It tells me what they do. I would probably like to know more, and I would assume I can do that on the About section. So that looks to be correct. The navigation so far seems intuitive. Welcome to the farm is a working educational farm. We offer visitor experiences, farm education, relaxed, family-friendly environment, da-da-da-da-da. Kind of what they're influenced by, and then share this. I love that you've got the social sharing right there, so it makes it easy for anybody to share this page or the site by email, Twitter, Facebook, or going to the more, and then you can choose anything else that you'd like to do. So, Zach, do you remember which plugin you used for this? Was it Shareaholic or some other?
That actually came built in with the website. I didn't have to put anything in.
Okay, great. And so I do want to back up for a minute too. Another thing that's not entirely obvious just by looking at this site is kind of what's running it, what created this, how is it being hosted. And so I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about the various components of what we think of as just a website. And the first thing is a domain name. So the domain name is what you type in to your browser address to actually get to the site. It's also URL, Universal Resource Locator. It can be kind of synonymous with that, although the URL can be subpages, okay? So it can be things that, are linked at a lower page level, subpages. But the domain name right now is prairiewindsnaturefarm.wordpress.com because this is a free WordPress site. There's WordPress.com and then there's WordPress.org. And if you want to have a hosted site, that is, help me out here, Zach, sometimes I even get this confused, WordPress.org, and this is on WordPress.com currently.
That might be right. I haven't really looked at that yet, hosting it through WordPress.
Okay.
But I think that sounds right.
Okay, let me just type in here real quick, WordPress. And what WordPress is it's basically a content management system. Okay, so if we pick this thing apart, what we've got here is a domain name, which Charlotte already owns, called prairiewindsnaturefarm.com. That currently points to her old site. This is, again, a brand new site that's being developed, debuting just today for the purposes of our workshop. So eventually what she'll do is point her old domain name to this new site. Okay, so the domain name does not equal the website. It's just the name, and you can use pointers, basically. I can't even remember if that's the right term. There's probably something a little more fancy. But basically, you can tell your host, I want this domain to direct to this particular site. Okay, so we've got the domain, which is just whatever comes before your .com or .org or whatever. It's that whole name. And then the host, in this case, I believe you said is GoDaddy. Is that right, Zach?
Correct. It's currently GoDaddy.
Okay. So GoDaddy is kind of where this website information lives. Okay. So it's actually, who backs up your files, who backs up what's called the database, who backs up, all of the code. All right. So GoDaddy is the host for this one. I host on hostmonster.com. I really kind of like them. Not anti-GoDaddy, but it just a few things I've experienced with GoDaddy when I've tried to move a domain from them to another one. I think they locked up the domain for like a couple of months. They just made it a little bit tricky, in my opinion. I didn't feel their interface was quite as user-friendly, but certainly, go with whoever you like to host your site. I mean, certainly reliability, uptime makes a difference. Pricing is a little bit important, obviously, as well. But just how intuitive it is to kind of get through your site. So that's host. We've got domain, and then the last thing is how are you actually putting your site together within that host? And this one, again, we've mentioned is WordPress. So WordPress is a content management system. It's really a popular one. I like it. I really like it. Zach, have you used other content management systems or website building?
Yes. For my grandpa's website, I use Yola.com, YOLA.com.
Okay.
I really like that one. Not only is it a host for the website name, but it also has the online website builder.
Okay.
That's how I built the website.
Okay. Okay, cool. And I know there are a number of new ones out recently. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a client who really wanted to use, oh boy, can't think of it now. Oh my. Was it Squarespace? There's Squarespace and there's, oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't remember this. Nuts. Okay, let me just type in here easy website builders. I really thought WordPress was pretty darn, Wix, that's what I'm trying to think of. I thought WordPress was really pretty darn good, and I do still love WordPress because of all the different plugins. It's what they call open source, so that means programmers can write little bits of code, and they are available to people who put together websites in the form of widgets and or plugins and even themes. So there are different elements of WordPress sites that can come together that somebody who's not a programmer can fairly easily put together. My client really, really wanted something easy, and when I tried to show her my WordPress theme that I had picked out for her, she was like, "You've lost me already, let's use Wix." And I have to say I was able to build a simple Wix site in, probably under 2 hours, learning Wix for the first time. So I still like WordPress, but there are definitely a lot of other ones out there. Any other good ones that you've seen, Zach?
Not that I can really comment on. I mean, I've heard about the Squarespace, and I've used Yola and WordPress.
Okay, good. So the point is, if you do a quick Google search, 10 easy website builders, this is kind of now at the level that we're talking about, is WordPress or Wix or, whatever. There's a lot. Oh, Weebly. Yeah, Weebly I've definitely heard of as well. Here we go, Squarespace we mentioned. iPage I've not used or heard of. Network Solutions I've not used or heard of. GoDaddy we've mentioned already. There are probably way more than 10, but this looks like a good ranking system. It kind of, we'll talk you through it. Some people don't like the open source as much as I do, like with WordPress, because they feel that the components might break down a little bit too easily, or when I mean break down, components might not play nicely with one another, whereas a site maker like Wix, they have one developer that develops all the components of that whole system so that they know that they work well together, as soon as they're released. So I'd say the ease of use definitely is there, but I really kind of like to get more out of mine. Somebody asked, what do I use as my host, and it is HostMonster. I would be happy to send you guys a link if you do decide to go with HostMonster. I love them. I think they have specials from as low as like $5 a month. And if I send you a special link, you might even get a little bit better deal off of that. So I'll do that right after we wrap. And the cool thing I like about that too is you can host multiple domains there that don't have to be related, all for the same low hosting price per month. So that's pretty cool. I want to be transparent. I'm also an affiliate for HostMonster, so that means if you use the link that I send you, they do send me a little bit of monetary compensation. So that kind of helps me do what I do, but I do want to be transparent about that. Okay, so let's get back to the site. This is kind of what we don't see, but they're important decisions that you make to say, okay, what's the name of my site going to be? Where am I going to host it? And then what am I going to actually build it with? So, Zach, how did you arrive at WordPress? Was that Charlotte's decision, or did you kind of, what led you to pick that out for a content management system?
Well, she had been looking at WordPress, and I had told her about Yola, and after she looked at them, she decided she wanted to go with WordPress after all.
Okay, good. And Charlotte, do you want to weigh in here at all? Let me see if you would like to be unmiked. She's on too. I can let Charlotte talk. Let me try it and see how we do. Hey, Charlotte, do you have a mic?
I'm here.
How
Can
did?
you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So, do you remember what led you to choose WordPress over other, other
Yeah.
content management systems?
I had experienced the limitations of the web builder in GoDaddy, and I really wanted something that was a little more flexible that I could add as I learn more over the coming years. Hopefully I'll keep learning and being able to add more bells and whistles and not be limited by the structure of a sort of already formatted web builder.
Okay, good. And I think WordPress is a great thing for that. And so one cool thing is, regardless of how you build your site originally, like if this is built on, the free, which I believe it is, you can do an export relatively easily from, the free version of WordPress to the paid. So that's one thing I have appreciated, is it's not awfully difficult to get your information out of here and into another. And anything else you want to say, Charlotte? If I think I'm going to.
Yeah, I invited my cousin. I've got a cousin who's into marketing, and he was able to take my old website and somehow capture it in a stored format of some sort so that I could export it, potentially export the content. And I was hoping he would log on to tell us about how he did that. But in any case, the content of the old GoDaddy site is captured in a file that he has.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he sent me that file. So.
Okay, great. Well, if he shows up, what is his name, just in case he shows
John.
up? John. Okay.
Lawrence.
Okay, cool. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and click the mic again, just because I think it is a little easier for the sound to stay pure if we've got fewer mics. But if you want to say something, just go ahead and type in the chat area, and I'll unmute you, okay?
Great. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Well, that's definitely very helpful if you have somebody who can walk you through, how to back up your site. That is one thing I really value with HostMonster as well, is they've got great tech support. They speak very clear English. They're based out of, I think, Utah. They've got 24/7 support, and they walk me through it. They have really empowered me to do more of that stuff. I have to say, probably 6 years ago, if I heard backing up files or exporting, I would have thought, ugh, panic, but it's pretty easy. HostMonster uses, and I believe GoDaddy as well, uses something called cPanel. Do you know if that's right, Zach? Do they have a cPanel access where?
I don't know.
Not sure? Okay. But cPanel, it kind of lets you get to, let's see if I can remember my own site. And when I say site, I actually mean host. With HostMonster, they're also the ones that allow me to create emails for each of my various accounts. So I've got about 20 different emails. All right, this is going really slow. Maybe I've just got too many things open. There we go. Okay, control panel login. So the cPanel is control panel. It lets you basically assign your domain to tell your host the intention that you're going to be building your site. It's basically where a lot of important things happen. I just wanted to quickly show you the control panel. Not every single host works like this, but I'd say a lot of them do, where you can build WordPress sites. So they've got, again, domains. There are different things you can add on. This is the cPanel right here. It allows you to do quite a few different things beyond just, creating a WordPress site. You can also use Weebly right from here. You can create mobile sites right from here, and we're probably not even going to get all the way into mobile sites, but if time allows, we will. Anyway, so let's go back over here. What we've got going on is a WordPress site hosted on GoDaddy. The domain eventually will be pointed, and that's not anything to panic about, Charlotte, so don't worry too much. The next thing I wanted to kind of point out is there's something called an F-zone. Zach, is that something you've heard of before? It's just kind of like the hot zone of a website.
No, I haven't heard of that before.
Okay. Again, not trying to do a gotcha thing. I'm sure you know all kinds of things that I do not know. But I found this picture that I thought was a good illustration of it. It basically shows, vaguely the capital letter F, kind of overlaid on top of a website. And various people have studied this phenomenon and just found that the human eye tends to, look up here across the top of the page and along the left edge of the page, and then kind of midway, perhaps under a graphic. So these are areas that you really want to dedicate to some of the most important, aspects of your site, because this is where your, human eye is already scanning anyway. So, even without knowing that, Zach, I kind of see, guess what? Do you see enough? I kind of see a little bit enough. So I think you've chosen well. So you've got the navigation, kind of up here in what would be a key important, place where your eye naturally gravitates to. And then I think you've set this up probably using widgets. Is that right? along
Correct.
the left hand, what we're going to call the stem of the F. And so widgets, again, are something that's, native to WordPress. I think they might exist in other website builders, but they're really pretty easy to just install as either little snippets of HTML code or, pre-existing widgets or plugins that you can get right through WordPress itself. Do you happen to recall, Zach, how you developed these?
These, when I went into the website, the page to customize how the website looks, I guess. On the side, there's like a little page where you can click and you can add the widgets, and then you can rearrange them, and you can title them and change the content that you want on them. So I used a couple plain text widgets. I think I used one or two HTML code widgets.
Okay.
And then I used the Facebook widget, and I used the Eventbrite widget.
Okay, great. Good. So some of them were existing, some of them you did like what they call an HTML text widget, and I'm just going to see,
Right.
again, like we're not going to be able to cover every single thing during this workshop, but if just a quick HTML text widget, I didn't even type in WordPress, but you can kind of see that a bunch of different help areas come up, and they make it fairly easy to understand how to do that. If, like Zach mentioned, the Facebook widget, let's just do Facebook widget. Like it'll kind of point you to a spot on Facebook that lets you grab that HTML code, and all you really have to do then is just click Get Code. Here we go, Get Code, and you just actually copy and paste this code right into the area that Zach's talking about that's called widget. So you label your widget with whatever you'd like, and you can say follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, whatever. Okay, so it's this kind of how-to combined with, how's this working? But people use widgets basically to increase functionality pretty easily. So the next thing that I kind of want to figure out, once I just establish that I'm in the right place, if I typed in Prairie Winds, Nature Farm, and I end up here at Prairie Winds Farm, Educational Nature Farm, that kind of satisfies me that yes, this looks like the experience that I was hoping for. This looks like a picture of, the farm that I would expect. It's not, a very traditional looking farm. And there's, a quick little snippet of what they are, a welcome. So I think it is welcoming. You can, again, go to About and find out the little bit deeper thing. Book a visit. Okay, this is pretty important. If I, if I'm interested in this place, then I probably very well might want to book a visit. Now the, okay, good. So to book a visit, learn more here or contact us here. My only feedback on this one, I'm going to echo something that we talked about last week on a completely different site, completely different application, is when text is hyperlinked, I'd really like to see it stand out a little differently from other text. You've got it capitalized, which is nice, but I think, to maybe underline it or have it be a different color, then I don't have to be hovering over it to find out that it's a hyperlink.
Okay.
So, if there's a way that you can just code that differently, with color, or, actually have the underline show, I think something like that would be real helpful. But what I mean by hyperlink is just simply it's a text. It's a piece of text that's not just regular text, like the word 85 acres. That's not hyperlinked. If I click on that, nothing else happens. When I click on here, I can see it is, or when I hover on here, it's underlined. That represents hyperlinking, and that takes me to another subpage. So, welcome to the farm. To book a visit, contact us here. I would say it might be, I guess whenever you can get somebody to where they want to go in the shortest number of clicks, that's certainly helpful. It looks like right now there's not a way for somebody to, like pick a date, time, and pay. So it's still a little bit manual, and if that's what it is, it's what it is. So you're basically just wanting people to email or call Charlotte or Robert to schedule their visit. that's as far as we've gotten right now.
Right.
Okay. So, what might even make that kind of cooler, better is at some point if you can add, an online payment kind of thing or, a calendar thing, but, it's not the end of the world. Charlotte's saying it would be nice if I could enter calendar dates available and be able to pay. Yeah, if you always did events, let's say Thursdays from 8 to 10, if you always did your tours like that and at least had one kind of automated option. This is something that we helped Charlotte add last year, which was to put her farm camp events online. And so she's got the Eventbrite widget over here. Let's click on that, see how that goes. And this is very brave. I want to point out once again, Zach stepped up, said he would be unmiked today, and he is a 16-year-old Boy Scout who has developed the site for Charlotte as a, tell me again, for your project? What?
Eagle Scout Project.
Eagle Scout Project. So how cool is that? I think what a brave young man for stepping up and agreeing to this. Okay, now I'm doing the list, and that's either taking a little bit too much time to load or...
Kathy, I think it's because list is already highlighted. Try
Okay.
clicking calendar.
Calendar?
I
Great.
think it switches between the calendar and the list.
Gotcha. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And so what I actually can do here then is just click on buy. I can probably click on buy, or I can click on this event, and it'll take me right to the event that Charlotte has already set up on Eventbrite. So again, she does farm camps, and that's a pretty big, revenue generator for her. So I think to make that very visible from the homepage and make it easy for people to understand that that's available and get to checkout quickly in just one click is smart. So I like that use of the F zone. That seems like a good way to feature that. Okay. Let's see, book a visit, also, year-round helpful. So I've already said navigation. I personally would probably like to see home over here to the left. Beyond that, I would say I usually like to see navigation in the order that kind of either makes the most logical sense to me or else, in the importance of each of these items to, to the camp, to the business. So I don't know exactly, what each of these are. Donate. Certainly that's helpful. One thing I would like to see maybe on Donate is just a donate button immediately connected to, to PayPal. That would be kind of cool. So, that would be feedback. Because I'd say any time that you introduce an additional step, and Zach, I understand this might not all be, within your, within your wheelhouse. It's got to kind of, you got to drill down and have a PayPal account or have, the background stuff to be set up. But, I'd say accepting donations, always a good idea. And contact, that's pretty basic. The only thing maybe I'd like to also see here is just a Google map, maybe a link to a Google map for directions. I think that's always kind of a nice touch.
Okay.
And maybe, if we're doing contact, how to connect with us on social media as well, because besides a phone call or an email, also, hey, let's connect and contact online. That would just be another opportunity. So share this is different than, connect with us on Facebook or Twitter, right? This is encouraging visitors to share in their own social accounts, whereas follow us, connect with us. You've got, Prairie Winds Farm on Facebook over here, which I like. That's, very nice and visible. And I think right now Facebook probably is the primary place where they exist online, but I think there are some additional accounts. So I would like to see them represented somewhere in the F zone, frankly. I would like to see them, those social icons maybe tucked right up here into the header if this particular theme allows. It could go in a lot of different places, but again, I'd say whatever is important to you, whatever you want to have happen, try to have that available to a visitor in as few clicks as possible. So like to see that up at the top. The other thing that we kind of talked about real quick last week is I really like to see, instead of the email spelled out, a way to make this also linked text. And again, I'm going to have to look this up one more time because I forget every time. I'm just going to put insert email into WordPress. It would be the same whether you're putting it into, WordPress post or WordPress page. But basically, if you don't know how to do that, here's the code that you grab. You just, grab this right here, and you can say email us, and then you just simply type in, the words you want to show up where it says email address, and then mail to would be where you actually put in, let me get back to your site, where you put in pwinsfarm@gmail.com. And the point is not necessarily to make it anonymous, because you can draw out that information, if you look at the underlying code, but it's just to make it easier on the visitor, once again, so they could just click on this and it would take them right to an email, an email interface, let's say. So we've got a few questions. Let's see, Lisa is asking, would more images make sense too, pics of the farm owners? That I think would be kind of nice. This is a nice image, but I know they do all kinds of like horseback riding, they're, summer farms, camps with the kids, maybe a picture or two of that. One way that you can do that nicely is with something called a slider. There are a number of different plugins for sliders on WordPress. And again, I'm not sure about this particular theme, but if we're just, kind of shooting for the moon and saying what we'd like, I have not had the pleasure of visiting the farm, so I only sense that this is not completely representative because I've seen other pictures on their Facebook, okay? Let me just go take a look. Prairie Winds Nature Farm, Okay, and then Lisa's also saying, what about going between a traditional farm shot and the pond shot for the main picture at the top? Sure, I mean, that could totally work. I think, if you're really trying to get the kids, the farm camps exposure, you probably want to like show that up too, okay? All right, so we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but hopefully you are getting some ideas. But I want to say what I see going right here is it's very clean. I think that the scale of text, it's okay for me. For some people that have maybe a little, less good vision, some of this text in the widget area might be a little bit small, but people can change their own resolution and can make some adjustments at their end. But generally, that's a lens that you want to go through, is just make sure it's readable for all of your, your audience. It was pretty quick loading. That's another thing that when things go right, you don't really think about it. But this loaded quickly. If it doesn't, that might be something that you need to investigate with your host to find out if there's, a bandwidth issue. Sometimes if you're hosting really, really large files like video or very, very high number of pixels, images, and your hosting account does not allow that, you might need to check that out. If you've got too many special effects or you've got too many ads or something like that, that can also slow the load time, but this went well. Another thing to look out for is information overflow, and I don't think that there's too much information here. I think it's fairly clear. It's pretty easy for me to navigate, book a visit, contact, donate, home, media, more, summer camp. I don't see sub pages coming up for any of these. I don't know that it's necessarily needed, but if you've got a more complex site where, summer camp, and then you want to talk about, various aspects of summer camp, you might want a drop-down menu with subpages, but you don't need it. Information about summer camp here, view the summer camp photo gallery, okay? So one thing I'd like to see added to that is how to sign up for summer camp. You've obviously got it over here on the left, but because summer camp is kind of a big thing that's coming up, I would say beyond the photo gallery, let's go ahead and put register for summer camp, right under here. I think that would make a lot of sense. More.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, again, it's just like it takes a village. Quite frankly, Zach, I would love to have you sit in on my own web development. It's like I need to do this for myself, which is part of the reason that I do it, right? And so, here are links to more information on related websites. That's great. Planting our prairie. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be clickable. I think it's kind of nice if you reserve the underline to all mean one thing. Like, I'm seeing these are underlined and they turn red. They're hyperlinked. This is underlined, not red, so that might be fine, but it almost makes me feel like, hey, this is going to be a hyperlink, and then over here, this is neither red nor underlined, yet it is a hyperlink. So I think just keeping that navigation a little bit consistent for the user helps a little bit. So what else is going right? Search. I think having a search bar prominently displayed in an easy to find place is a simple thing that you can do, and it makes it a whole lot easier for somebody that, especially with blog posts, like let's just say I couldn't remember what that site was that Charlotte mentioned where you can find all your CSAs. I just knew it had harvest in it. I could type in the word harvest and it takes me right to local harvest. It shows me all the, yeah, Charlotte's answering me in the chat, and I was just kind of doing that, like pretending that I had that question. I visit local harvest all the time. But, the search bar lets me remember a little snippet of what that piece of information was about and narrows or filters the information and brings up just the most relevant, content. So that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Anyway, I think that you've done a great job. I think there's, some opportunities for improvement. Again, what I would like to see probably just first and foremost from thinking about how people can interact with you, join with you. I think, Charlotte, you also have an email list. I can't remember if that's on MailChimp or what we set that up on, but maybe, get the camp registration schedule as soon as it's available, or, join our email list. I think that might be another good call to action. You want to think about putting your calls to action in somewhere in that hot zone, okay? Oh, I think you do have one set up yet because we did that last year. I did an email blast for you last year to your database, so I'm pretty sure you do. We'll have to look at that offline. Okay, so what else? Roseanne is saying he has attached several photos under the heading Summer Camp. Yeah, that's right. You have. And I like that. I would just kind of like to see, how do we get right to the money? I don't want to be crass, but, we don't want to get in the way of people either giving us money or, wanting to connect with us online, visiting the farm or whatever. So I would say, you can have multiple calls to action. It could be sign up for camp here or, join this class. You don't have to just limit yourself to having it in one place here along the left-hand spine of the F zone. Okay, but let's give Zach a big hand. I'm going to clap. I mean, he's 16 years old. He's an Eagle Scout. He's designing websites and has been for some time. So I think, this is just a real empowerment lesson, and I love that you're doing this at such a young age, Zach. Anything else you'd like to say?
Nothing that I can think of that I need to add. I think you've pretty much covered everything real well.
Okay, well, good. I hope you got a couple of good tips. Other people are virtual clapping and saying, great job, Zach. So, again, thanks for stepping up and, kind of subjecting yourself to this. I know you had no idea what was necessarily going to happen, but I think you've really done a fine job, and I'm sure if you need any more Eagle Scout projects, you probably have a bunch of people on this call that are wondering how to reach you. So do you have your own website yet? Or how can people find you?
Not for myself, no.
Okay. Well, is that next?
I don't know, maybe.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, hey, come on back and join us. Think about what you want to say about yourself.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go ahead and take you off the mic. You've worked hard this morning already, and thank you so much again for sharing. Okay. So I want to go back to some of the other tools I've put together on Pinterest for you. The F zone that I kept referring to, here's kind of a graphic representation of this. And once again, this is what some scientists have found to be the hot zone. So you want to use these key areas of your website for the most important stuff. Other things that are kind of done before you even get there it's actually kind of an ongoing project that you're going to want to check out, is using a tool like Google AdWords Keyword Planner. Whether you're planning to do AdWords or not, you can actually create a free AdWords account, and it makes these research tools available to you to find out what are the most commonly searched for terms, words or phrases that your audience might be looking for. So for Charlotte, she could type in what she believes they're looking for, summer camp, summer farm camp, summer, you basically start with trying what you think people are looking for, and then Google will actually affirm for you or deny, what people are looking for, so that you can discover how many monthly searches there are, how many daily searches there are for a particular term, and you can make sure that you use those words within your site. And you can use those words in blog posts, you can use those words in pages, you can use those words in what's called the metadata, the tagging that goes on, under the scenes. It might be a little much to get into for our purposes here today, but even some of the tagging and the hyperlinking captions that are done. So when you hyperlink text, you can actually type in what words are supposed to show up when you hover over that text. All right, so anyway, this is a great free tool that you can use. You don't have to be a Google AdWords customer to take advantage of that. And then another thing, this is kind of nice for you to do is maybe maintenance or after the site is just launched. If you click on this little guy, grr, I hate that, 404 page not found. 404 means that probably your links changed, and what worked at one point is no longer working. So there are a number of different tools that I found here on this particular post that tell you how you can check for broken links throughout your site, how you can look and make sure that the HTML is correct on your site, and if you want to go ahead and check that out, I think that's pretty helpful. I'm sure there are other things out there, but this is just one I found pretty quickly. WordPress theme search. This is kind of neat. If you're in the middle of building your own site and you're kind of looking at other sites and trying to figure out what you like, I hesitate to even show my own. This is not necessarily awesome. Tracy, is your site a WordPress site? Let me give that a go. I'm going to try yours. I think she told me what that was. TracyTrout.0.com. Okay, let's try that one. Tracy Trout.0.com. Okay, I'm not sure. We didn't talk about this. This may or may not be a WordPress site, but that's okay. Even if it's not, you can double check. And so Tracy, I believe, is launched out on her own recently doing consulting for addiction and recovery counseling. She has worked with a number of local nonprofits here in Valparaiso over the years, and I'm sure she's going to be highly successful being on her own. So what I want to do here is go to this WordPress theme search. I'm going to say, gosh, I really like the look of that site that she's done. It looks very clean. I'm going to go ahead and just type in or paste in her URL, and I'll click on that, and it's telling me, okay, that's fine. It doesn't appear to be a WordPress site. So I am curious, Tracy, she said she used Google Apps to create her site. Great. Wonderful. Let me just go ahead and put mine in. I'm just going to go to kathysipple.com because that is a WordPress site, so that you'll see what would happen if it was. This is helpful if you like the way a WordPress theme is composed. It'll tell you everything from the theme, the version, and then it will also tell you which plugins are used. So if you're like, oh, I really like the way that she's got her post sharing set up, you can just find out, hey, that was Shareaholic that was used. Hey, what's Kathy doing to embed her YouTube, da-da-da. Okay, so these are all the different plugins that I'm using on that site. It's just kind of a nice way to be able to sneak under the veil and look at what's actually building the site when you don't know how to do that, on your own. So let's go back to Tracy's. I would say, I really like how she's got the social icons featured very prominently. So, that's something I look for. Just quickly, being in the business that I'm in, I'm probably a little bit biased on that, I suppose. Charlotte's asking, can you change the theme on your site after you already set it up? Yes, absolutely you can. It's a fairly easy thing to do. So that's pretty good. The one thing I might consider adding here too, if it's available to you, Tracy, would be just to simply still put a little email icon, just because some people still want to do that. And, I think I would probably know that I could click contact and probably get to email as well. Yes, I can. And that's great. You've got the email set up the way that I had mentioned, which is to hyperlink it and make it a one-click thing that you can do. She's got her phone on there. That all makes sense. I'm not sure if she's like working out of her home like I do. I don't put my address on there, and that's on purpose because I don't want people just stopping in thinking they have an appointment or they can drop in. So that's probably intentional. If you did have a brick and mortar space where you wanted people to know where you were, obviously you would put in your address. You might use that Google Maps thing like we talked about with Zach on Charlotte's website. Okay, I like these images. They're just kind of neat, clean. They give me some idea. Here's a picture of Tracy, so I think, yes, I'm on the right spot. They're kind of subtle, but I think this gives me a little snapshot of what she's about. Bio, if you're a one-person consulting company, your bio is going to be pretty important. People want to know, or I'm sorry, you're working with Rachel as well, so you're not just it's not just you on your own, you're working with Rachel. But you want to know who's behind this counseling service. So I think putting a bio on there makes a whole lot of sense. You might want to add a LinkedIn link because I bet you've maybe got some good connections there, possibly some testimonials. That might be kind of cool. And then addiction and recovery counseling, since that's what she's saying that she does, you want to know, well, how can I get that, what's available, and kind of spelling it out, saying how you can get it and what's available makes sense. What I don't see here is a call to action, so maybe, where can I learn about individual counseling? Is the best thing to call, or is there a calendar? If there's group counseling, maybe like sign up here to get alerts on group counseling, family groups, click here for the calendar. Wherever you can kind of guide somebody to their next step from the logical place where they would have been right before, I think, kind of makes some sense. But, maybe that's not available right now. You can only put on there what you've got. So talks, the brain and addiction, the culture of addiction, the culture of recovery, that's great. Okay, so these are kind of all the things that you could hire Tracy presumably to do for your group. I might, just kind of beat people over the head with that and say talks. These are some of the talks that I have put together and I'm available to do, for your group. Maybe another email me about your request for, a talk, something like that. Is there a fee? Do you want to put anything in there on your policy, or even just a reminder? Contact Tracy or contact Rachel, contact us about setting up, something at your organization. You can do that via email. Sometimes forums can also be a nice way to get that information. We talked about forums last week a little bit, again, with Charlotte. And we had used Google Forms, but there are all kinds of forms. FormStack, Woo, what is that called? WooForm or Woo? Gosh, can't remember. Google Forms is free, so if you wanted to just collect information from people that were answering your question or saying, hey, send me information, connect with me, Google Forms might be a way to do that. Now I'm dying to know. I think it's Woofu. I think that's the forms I was trying to remember. So online forms. Forms can just be a great way to help you organize your incoming requests for contact. And so what you get there is not just, email after email after email after email. You can get the notifications for that as well, but you can easily look at, a spreadsheet basically is how the form data is collected, and you can kind of, see how is this pulling for me? Am I getting any information from my talks page? Am I getting any information coming to me, any requests through my addiction recovery and counseling, that kind of deal. So I like it. The thing I just would like to see a little bit more maybe is just call to action. So she's got under frequently asked questions, what's the payment for session? How long do they last? That kind of makes sense. How do I make an appointment? Great. Okay. This is something I haven't really done myself, but I know there are a number of calendar applications set up so that if you are a one-person business like me, sometimes there can be a lot of back and forth with trading emails or trading phone calls to figure out, well, when are you available? When can you do this? Let me just see if I can find real quick one that I found pretty easy to use. Okay, this is somebody that I work with in my marketing mastermind, and she's got, let's see, when do we meet? Go ahead and use this coach's marketing source.schedule. This was pretty easy to do, so she makes just a certain number of dates and times available on this calendar, and you can hold back some too if you don't want to show everybody every single hour that you're actually available. Schedule once, I believe this is called, or meetme.so, schedule once. This is something I'm thinking of adding to my own site just to cut down on making it easier to get those, get to the conversation, because some of those administrative things that we go back and forth on, if you can think of how to automate that, that might save your clients some grief and save you some trouble as well. Okay, so what can I expect? That's cool. And Lisa's asking, can that be used to schedule time at a retreat center? Yeah, I think you could probably, tweak that to use it however you would like. If you just wanted to make time available and it's like once it's done, then I would say a schedule once kind of application would be good. If it's where you've got a class that you're trying to fill or a camp like Charlotte did. Let's see if I can get back to hers. Then Eventbrite, might make some sense. Schedule once. Yeah, let me just see here. Schedule once. And I think I got to look that up too. I don't know that it's free. It might not be free, but I guess it's okay. It says from $5 per user per month. That seems pretty darn good. I mean, if you have like any income coming in from meeting up with people, or you've ever missed a client because you couldn't get back in touch, it's probably worth $5 a month to do that. So I'm thinking I'm going to check that out. So schedule once, it's just scheduleonce.com. And Charlotte asked, how do we link other media's mention of us to our website? For example, Inside, Outside Michiana blogged about us on Science Live. Great question. Okay, and I know we're going to probably end up be out of time here, but I'll go ahead and answer that quickly. You do the same thing that we did last week, which is just hyperlink it to your site. So you can hyperlink any kind of text. The first thing you need to know is that you've been mentioned, so you could use a Google alert, which we talked about last week, to alert you to the fact that you were mentioned, or if you know that you've been mentioned, then what you can do is just go to that URL. Okay, so hopefully it exists online. You go to the URL, and then you would copy that link. Okay, this is a client site that I keep up. Okay, so here's the URL hosted on that media's site. I copy that URL, and then I link it to text within my page by hovering over it and then clicking the chain link tool and hyperlinking it to the underlying text, just like we've done before. So that is it for today. Tomorrow we'll be back, and I think we're talking about Facebook. I actually need to double check. I haven't had anybody volunteer for that yet, so I'll either be volunteering one of my own pages, or we can take volunteers on the fly tomorrow. Just going to, again, be looking at Twitter on Wednesday. LinkedIn, we've got a volunteer. We can look at more than one for LinkedIn on Thursday. And then Friday, we'll be looking at how to use email and other tips. So you're all very welcome. Thanks for coming today, and I'll see you again tomorrow.